Hi guys, Carissa here with Inky Fairy Designs with the Blitsy creative team, and today we're going to be making these artsy craft tags using the Prima Marketing, Creating, and Faith collection. So these are like faith-based tags that I made back in the Black Friday pajama party, but I wanted to go ahead and make a full video showing you exactly how I created these tags and also kind of doing a little something different that I had in mind with them. So like I said, I'm using the Creating in Faith collection by Prima Marketing. I'm using excuse me, these two stamp sets along with the Bible book set to stamp out my Bible verse, and I'm using the mask, the heart and cross mask as well. I'm working on the Ranger craft tags, and I'm also using distress inks. I will have all of the colors and all of the products listed on the Blitsy blog, so be sure to check there. You'll be able to see everything that I'm using as well as links to Blitsy where you can get those products. So I'm starting off, this is what I wanted to do and try differently. I wanted to add some white gesso to my tag before I started. And I wanted to do this because the tag is a manila tag, so it has a bit of a yellow tint to it. And I noticed when I made my other tags that it slightly altered the color of my distress inks just because it has that tint. So I'm putting two very light coats of gesso on my tag first to get rid of that yellowish tint, and then I wanted to see how the colors blended and moved on the gesso, which was kind of an interesting process. So I'm heat setting that, making sure it's completely dry. Now I added my mask, and on my masks what I do is I add some repositionable liquid adhesive on it, so it makes it so that it won't move when I'm doing all of that blending. And these masks are great for that because they're like plastic, so you can add that adhesive, just let it set aside, air dry, face up, and then once that's dry you've got a repositionable mask that isn't going to move around when you're doing all sorts of blending on it. So it's a really great way to create that, sticky side for your masks. So like I said, I added the gesso to my tag, and this was very interesting to me because I've only used the ink when I've been like blending on white cardstock, which has a bit of tooth and grit. Or maybe it's smooth. I don't know. But the gesso was actually very smooth to me. I felt like there was no texture, which was really interesting to me as I did this. And I felt like the inks kind of sat on top of the gesso, which makes sense. Now that I'm thinking about it, is because they are inks, so they would absorb into the paper when you're blending. But when I put the gesso on, it's kind of creating a non-absorbent layer. And so, yeah, it was really interesting and very unique. I thought the colors looked very creamy, and they blended like butter, which distressings normally do anyway, but it was just a different, I don't know, it just felt different to me. So just wanted to put that out there. I did dry the inks because they are a water-based ink. They do tend to stay wet. So I dried it with my heat tool before going into this step where I created a mask out of some masking paper of that mask and then used the cross mask part so that I could bring in this fossilized amber color onto and not get it like muddied with the other pinks and purples and blues that I have there, or even turn green. I just didn't want any of that. So that's why I put that. I created kind of like the outline mask with the paper, and then used the cross, which also has that like sticky adhesive on it. So that's just my preferred way to use these particular masks in this technique. You certainly don't have to use your masks with any sort of adhesive. So I'm just blending that. I did the fossilized amber. I wanted kind of a complementary color, and it just really, really popped. And so I'm adding some specks of water, or flicks of water, and because that's how I use distressings. And this was like, oh my goodness, that's really white, but that's because I have the gesso underneath. So, like I said, I don't know, it was just so, it was a very unique process and journey creating this tag, but I loved how it turned out. So it's just fun to kind of step outside the box and try something new. So now I'm doing some embossing. I stamped those hearts with the Versamark ink, and I kind of cascaded them down from the heart. And I'm using this Wow embossing powder, which is from their holiday collection, which is just beautiful. It's called Sugar Plum, and it's like silver and purple and pink, and it's just really, really pretty. So I'm heat setting that now, and you can see it starts to just kind of pop off the page. Really pretty. It kind of blended in nicely with the other colors that I had on the page, yet really stood out on the yellow. So now I'm going in, I'm adding my phrase from that Phrases stamp set using VersaFine Onyx Black ink. And I like this one, Choose Joy, Always Choose Joy. It's just so true. I mean, if we don't choose joy, that's a choice we make. So anyway, this is how I store my books, the Bible books stamp set, because there's tons of teeny tiny stamps with all of the Bible books names, all of the verses. So it has like tons of numbers that you can use to create all of the verses numbers. And so I put it in there. I would like to find like a smaller container, but for now that's what I'm using. It's like an old pencil holder. So I used that banner from the other stamp set, and now I'm going to stamp the verse, which is, I believe I went with Philippians 4, verse 4. And so it talks about joy, and that's why I chose that one. So in these phrases stamps, there's lots of very general phrases, but you can go through the Bible if you want and look for verses that fit that phrase. And I like to stamp that on my tags. I think it personalizes the tag and just brings another simple touch to it. You could give it as a gift or use it as bookmarks, which is what I do. So here I'm going in with my favorite color of the Dina Wakley Heavy Body Gesso, which is Gilt or Jilt. I think it's Gilt. Or Guild. No, Gilt. Anyway, so I put that around the edges, and now I'm added some water to it to water it down, and I'm using the Tim Holtz splatter brush to add some flicks of that gold just to kind of tie it in. I like the way that you can get large flicks of water and small flicks of water with that splatter brush. So now I'm coming in, and I wanted to kind of add some shading around the banner because it just looked kind of flat and I didn't really like it. So I'm using the Faber-Castell Big Pit Artist Pen in the coal gray, and it just added such a slight shadow, just really made it pop off the page and look so flat. Now I'm adding some seam binding. This is like the final touch on my tag. I like to add these, and I like to use the colors that I used on the tag, and I just smushed down some color on my craft mat and then add some water, get it really wet and mix it around in my fingers, get all that ink up off the craft mat. And then what's really cool about seam binding is that when you dry it or you let it air dry, I like to dry it with a heat tool because I have no patience whatsoever. It kind of stiffens and hardens and gives you kind of like a crinkly effect. It's so pretty. So I tie that onto the top of my tag, and there you have it. That's my artsy, faith-based craft tag. Like I said, I love using these as bookmarks. I can use them to mark pages in my Bible if I'm studying a certain book, or I just like to use them in my books that I'm reading around the house. So here's some close-ups of the tag. You can see all of the different layers and texture, and I just had a lot of fun using the distressing on a gessoed surface. Now here's the other tags that I mentioned that are not gessoed. They're just on the craft tag, and you can see how they're a little bit muted, but they're still really, really pretty, and I love them. So here's this tag that I made today. I hope you enjoyed this video. For more inspiration, be sure to check out the Blitsy blog, and I will see you next time. Bye.